Thank you, Kadar, for giving me the opportunity. Hi, Dan. This is Junaid here, and I have been working in embedded software development for more than a decade now. So, by embedded, what I mean is that whatever you see in the control systems of the cockpit, starting from gears to anything, even a light control system, they are all embedded. So, and it is engineers like us who develop code for that. Now, your question is very important. Is it going to be related to onboard computers? No, absolutely not. That will put the life of everybody on risk. So this is not possible. Uh, so what is possible then? When we say programming, okay, so I'm doing programming of control systems, but what that does that give me? Does it only make me able to write programs to develop things? No, it gives me analytical abilities and problem solving abilities generically. That's what we are talking about here. So machine learning and all that stuff, that is there, okay, to make things better, analyze things in long run. But in order to enhance the analytical and problem solving abilities of somebody, they generically need to know how computers work. Okay, that's the first thing, because the airplane even today is by large autonomous. That's what I know. It's already much more autonomous than any car on the ground. So that's the first thing. And in this sense, there's another question which arises. Since there's already a large part of autonomy in avionics, what happens when pilots suddenly face a challenging situation? So if you ask somebody like me, a programmer, or somebody who is a mathematician, what happens when you stop doing programming for 2 or 3 months? We have a simple answer to that. We easily lose 50% of our grip. We really have to come back to that frame of mind before we can do anything. So if your pilots are sitting in cockpit for long enough time period, what is the measure to quantify? I mean, what is the measure to make sure that okay, this pilot is still good enough to handle the challenging tasks? So there, these sort of courses come into play. They need to pass analytical ability test cases. They need to have problem solving abilities to make sure that even if they are sitting there for a long time, I mean, they can have good times over the long period of time when nothing goes wrong, even smooth landing, smooth take. So how do we make sure that they are still capable to handle difficult situations? So, and for that, I think, I know for a fact that a lot of fighter pilots, they are taught computer science, because computer science enables them to think in multidimensional way. They study mathematics, they study physics, they study computer science, because computer science is all about implementing your physical knowledge, your mathematical knowledge. And if pilots don't have that kind of aspect, they they lose a lot of information in my point of view, because the more computer you induce in any system, the more jargons you need to know about computers. And you can easily get that kind of skill through programming. So programming is of many types. I mean, I know for a fact that there are a lot of courses which are designed for specific industry. Like we don't necessarily need to tell pilots how to solve some specific mathematical problem. We can design a course for them where they are posed theoretical challenges and then they have to solve them through programming. This basically makes them eligible to think out of the box. I mean, every pilot will have a different solution to it, how they want to approach it. We give them a set of variables, set of scenarios and parameters, and then they have to come up with a solution given a certain situation. It's different from sitting in the simulator, you see.
Well, fantastic points, Junaid. And I think you touch upon something that um, I can see an argument for pilots that are in fact sitting the seat, right? They're in the flight deck for many hours, that their if you will, skills atrophy, may even set in faster than, you were kind of drawing the parallel with a computer programmer. If a computer programmer, I don't know, maybe they needed a total cut and break from, screen time, and I don't know, they decided to spend a year farming, right, where they didn't utilize their skill in any way. Naturally they would have some amount of atrophy, but then maybe coming back to a programming setting, surely their awareness of the atrophy would be clear, right? They would say, I should expect that I need to kind of, what's that expression? Dust off the cobwebs,
Yeah.
right? As far as their skill set. Whereas in aviation, right, with these highly automated systems, um I have to imagine that there would be a bit of a disconnect. Like it would be harder for at least some pilots to even realize how much their skills are starting to atrophy. So
Indeed.
I think that's a fantastic point. The more opportunities they have to really kind of exercise at least the mental,
Indeed.
reasoning, making sure that they're ready with both recognizing a dangerous situation develop, and more so lean on muscle memory, and so they can jump right in with the solution.
Yeah, sorry to cut you, Dan. So this is also important with respect to it's not only about, okay, they might be thinking, okay, they have spent maybe 100 hours of flying, but in reality, how much of the physical activity they had to do or mental activity they had to do in the cockpit, that matters. I'm here doing programming for 8 hours a day. I mean, if I'm just sitting at computer and looking at things without actually writing code, I cannot say I actually did that much programming. Or if I'm using chat GPT or any LLM model to create programs for me, it's not really programming anyhow. So I totally actually understand this scenario where more autonomy is needed, but I think there's even more need for sharpening the analytical abilities or problem solving abilities of pilots. So I know in you when somebody is doing the ethical hacking courses, or they want to have some certification, that certificate is only valid for a certain time period. And then they have to do the exams again or prove that they have read certain amount of literature before they can be renewed their certificates. I don't know if that's the same case with the pilots or not, but I personally believe there should be something like this. Uh, because in future we are going to see even more autonomy. I know,
Mm,
and it's also a fact that there's a huge number of bugs in even the most complex systems in the world. I have written software for lithography systems, which are arguably the most complicated systems on Earth, even more complicated than rockets.
mm,
We had so many bugs I can't even explain, and those were 50 million, 100 million euro machines per machine in factories like TSMC, and there are bugs there we used to solve on an everyday basis. So planes are also having issues. I mean, we know the incident what happened in history, maybe 10, 20 years back, even recently, and they are cause of software bugs. So
yeah.
that's one scenario. But then I also see sometimes air crash investigations. I mean, because I used to like flying, I still like it. I wanted to also become a pilot at some point in my time. But what that shows me is that a lot of accidents happen due to a negligence of pilots and not following proper procedures.
Mm,
and they think that they know enough, but their their skills become rusty over time because they were not exposed to challenging conditions or repeated refreshment of the courses or the contents, which may enhance their problem solving skills. So that is why I think Kadar's point is important, that we need to introduce such courses to the pilots which would keep them engaged in this scenario. They don't lose their grip over their skills, or at least the mental capacity of thinking out of the box.
Well, I absolutely agree, and I think therein lies why we need experts like Raquel that was on earlier, right? With the human factors, knowledge, and understanding. And yes, you're right to recognize that in this transition to utilizing more sophisticated, higher levels of autonomy, that we can't lose sight of the importance of that analytical reasoning, um, and not just that pilots are able to get to the safest answer eventually, but they're sharp enough that they can do so very quickly, because of course aviation is one of those fields where we don't have the luxury of calling together a committee and trying to source from a couple different experts what might be the best path forward. We need real-time execution and decision making, because lives are on the line. So I
Indeed.
absolutely agree. I think that's a very important point you make.